Welcome, and thank you for joining for another whiskey review today. We're going to take a look at the 2022 Springbank 18-year-old. Dustin, 46% like always, my friend. This particular one, I believe, was 65% bourbon, 35% sherry?
Yep.
2/3, 1/3 sherry to bourbon. Could be off by a little bit.
Yeah.
We read those things, I sometimes always wonder of myself. Am I reading this right? The Springbank plays with it so much. 50-50, 60-40.
Yeah,
You know,
every
90-10.
release you got to go look it up. Every time it's different.
Yeah.
And and then they tell you absolutely nothing on the label, nothing on the bottle. There is no box.
And it's not even like the 25, they put like the vintage, but this is the 2022.
Yeah. You have to look at laser codes on the bottom that eventually fade off.
Yeah, they're fun. I will say this, Dustin, this is a little bit lighter than last year's 2021, which we really liked.
Last year's was exceptionally dark. I don't think it was any kind of like super high sherry content either. It was just they used some very active sherry buds for this
dark
one.
this
one,
dark
not so
sherry
much.
cast. But again, Springbank always,
It's not lacking though.
Springbank always tinkers with the recipe.
I think it's a very nice color.
It is. No, it's light gold. It looks like you could convince me it's just sherry maturation if it was refill.
Oh,
You know
yeah.
what I mean?
I have a 25 that's lighter. That was 100% sherry.
Ooh, this is dirty. Here's back to dirty. Back to dirty Springbank 18.
This is a classic Springbank profile, similar to the 2022 25-year-old. Very much kind of going back to their
Roots.
more traditional characteristics.
Oh, yes. Well, what we mean by that is the Springbank funk. What we normally think of Springbank or some of the elements we pick up in the younger whiskeys are, man, here in spades, boy.
Definitely has that kind of like funky. There's a little bit of sour oak here.
Yeah, that sour plays well with that vinegar chip note.
There is a good wallop of saltiness. Peat is coming through, which at first I, for some reason, didn't get it when I first cracked this bottle. Now, as you guys can see, we've got it down just past the shoulders, and I should point out, this is a 700 ml, so they've gone there in the US now, they're all 700, and let me tell you, Mike, it's a far more feminine looking bottle.
You have loved the change, Dustin. You have embraced the change like Americans normally embrace
I don't know
change.
about embracing, I'm just saying, you pull this next to like the old ones, it's got these big broad shoulders, this one, not so much.
Hey, this one's a little trimmer. This one's got lower body fat. Yeah, we don't like getting
I think this one just doesn't lift
less.
weights. And higher prices.
Dustin isn't happy. They went to 700 instead of 750. Neither am I. And their prices went up, but here we are. We got the bottle.
Yeah.
We're one of the lucky ones.
I still paid for it.
And I like my Springbank dirty sometimes. This is a normal Springbank 18 vinegar chips, a little bit of that cookie, but you left it in the couch overnight.
The sweetness is really low. It's almost like instead of getting that like nice sugar cookie like dough, I'm getting like maybe like dried vanilla frosting that was on it. Cookies are kind of dried out a bit.
They're still there.
It's there, but it's like I said, it's subtle. It's dried out. It doesn't have.
It's step back.
It's not fresh baked cookies, man.
It's step back. And almost just a twinge of ginger.
I was just getting ready to say there was like when I was saying the cookies, I was kind of thinking like ginger cookie, and I'm like, should I say that?
No, I've never said ginger in a spring. Well,
Not that I can think of.
not in a Springbank.
Could have been like the 15th spice you picked up on one of the 25s or some single.
But almost a Macallan-esque ginger, kind of just floating around in the background there. But it's dirty. Man, it's dirty. This almost comes off like Lungro.
Yeah, I mean, there's a smokiness to this. There's a lot of that. But it's not a clean smoke either. It's a dirty smoke.
Sooty.
Yeah.
Sooty bordering on ash, bordering on like a cigar ash.
It's intense, man. This is not what I would think of if you're saying, hey, I want a nice, inviting, pleasant, sweet nosing whiskey. This is kind of, niche, if you will. You have to be a Springbank fan to appreciate what's going on here. At the same time, there's a nice citrus here.
Oh man, I just love the malty feel when you're just have it in your mouth. Anyway, as soon as you swallow, man, I tell you what, that sherry cask really takes over on the finish. It kind of comes in on the side crest. You get a nice mix of that sherry, but initially it was on the palate. It was a little bit dirtier, but again, I was getting some of that nice sugar cookie. And distinctly sugar cookie. I've had a lot of cookies. This is Christmas time when we're recording this. A lot of cookies lately. People's house, people sending them to you. Yeah, a little bit of sugar cookie with nothing on top. on the palate. As soon as you swallow, those sherry casks really come and crest the sides with some nice light chocolate. The funkiness is really the show here. This is what's really different with this batch compared to other 18s. It's dialed up, but the peat almost comes off as a little bit dry on the finish. I think it sachets nice into not only a long finish, but a finish that kind of does smoke, dirt, and a little bit of baking goods in a smooth, even tone. What do you think?
So I think the bourbon and the sherry play really nicely here. They both have their role. I think initially the sherry definitely gives you a nice little sweetness. I wasn't jumping out and screaming chocolate in my head, but when Mike said that, he's right. There's chocolate there.
On the finish, on the sides.
But for me, I mean, the bourbon is doing a really interesting job where my guess is these are refilled bourbon casks and they're adding a little bit of that citrus, a little sour. They're adding a nice little oak presence. And it's playing with that Springbank malt, bringing it up in acidity and citrusness, bringing it down in sweetness. This isn't one of those kind of sweeter, more vanilla forward bourbon casks, which is making me think again, refill. It's got a big, bold flavor. My whole mouth is really kind of biting from that combination of acidity from that bourbon cask and then the smoke, a little bit of that slight peatedness, and then even a little bit of that sea salt. I mean, Springbank always does a beautiful job with that.
There's a nice breeze of seashore. It's almost like you're, my buddies live out in California, and we go to little restaurants that are actually on the water, but we're a little bit off the water, but we get that cool breeze from that California air, and it'll cross the sand and heat up a little bit. There was a little bar we'd sit at and drink Coronas back in the day, and just that air hitting you. It's fresh. Feels like morning.
Mm-hmm.
There's almost something, almost now that I added water, now I'm moving on as far as those thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I added water, almost like a light detergent, not in a bad way, almost like a detergent or like a body wash fragrance in the air. And now this is a note that with water, I've never said on any Springbank of the 25, but I'm getting some type of light flower note with this as well.
It's definitely cleaned up. I mean, it's definitely coming off as some type. It's a clean note. I would not have gone body wash or something like that, but it's definitely very, I don't know, you were cooking something, and I mean, it's just very simple, neutral, and it left the room smelling just real nice.
You know, something that I notice more and more with Springbanks, and we say it more with Hazelburn than we do the other ones, but even though we say it's a dirty, funky malt, and it is.
Yeah.
Especially when they peat it. I think that comes a lot from the peat, but the sherry cask that they source makes the whiskey come off extremely fresh. With Hazelburn, it's blatantly obvious how fresh and clean and how well the sherry's done with this. But with this one, I get that too. So this is a really interesting Springbank 18 for me. Initially, it was that gritty, dirty Springbank 18, but I tell you what, I never have gotten one of the flowery notes in one of the younger, meaning under 25 note Springbanks.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, Dustin, so we're at as far as the whiskey score on this one.
I'm gonna give this a very respectable, very solid 88, Mike. Does everything I like, doesn't have a lot of wow factor, really well balanced, beautifully put together. You know, at the 280 I paid for this thing, probably a little disappointed, but I'm not excessively disappointed. 280, it's a little high for this, being 88, but I'm not upset.
Yeah, so initially when it came off super funky, I was starting by thinking 87, 88. But I tell you what, man, even though the funky notes on this are really turned up and the sugar cookies are turned down on this is one of the more interesting 18-year-olds I've had. I'm not saying it's my favorite. I probably prefer the 21 over this 22. So I'm right there where you're at. I'm an 80. I'm going to give a higher end of the score because it did have a few transitions. It really handled water well, in my opinion. So I'm right there with you. But I would say in general, if you're looking at the last 2 years, 2021, 22, this would not be my first pick. But buddy, I'm glad you got it.
Yeah. I'm happy. At some point we need to do an 18 versus 18, kind of a little showdown.
Rundown.
A few of these.
Which one to pick?
Yeah.
The 3-piece. I'm trying to have a little bit of everything. Anyway, those are our thoughts on this particular one. If you guys had a chance to try the new 2022 Springbank 18, let us know what you guys think. Again, we believe it's 65 bourbon, 35 sherry. And Dustin, until next time, what do we wish the folks?
Happy. Hard to get drinking.
We'll see you then. Bye.